We're not going to get into the real murder issues because there was really probably no intent to kill, but there was a killing. So when we're dealing with duty of due care, we're dealing with the tort of negligence. Negligence has four basic elements: duty, breach, causation, damages. What does that mean? We look to a situation and we say, is it foreseeable that if I commit a particular act, I could cause injury to another person? If we can say it's foreseeable, then I have a duty of due care toward that person to be careful.
Yes, these vehicles are hard to stop when you're going a certain speed and you have momentum built up. But obviously there's no momentum here. He could have been going, what, 10 miles an hour, 15 tops? He was obviously aware of you guys. And he sat there for multiple light cycles. So he should have been extra careful, and extra aware of his surroundings.
Now, if I go ahead with my act and I injure that person, I have breached that duty. There's your second element, breach.
This is so interesting. The fact that he sat there in the street, I don't know what his temperament was. Is he just getting more and more worked up?
Only people love pigs as much as they love dogs.
For starters, he didn't need to do that. I mean, he probably shouldn't have been making the turn from the left lane like that.
If we can say, but for my act, this person was injured, but for that, I am the cause. Now we look to see how egregious was the act that caused the injury. Was there reckless indifference to the party that was injured? A driver making a right-hand turn from a left-hand lane in violation of a code section, who knows that there are people who are on the side of the road, which he has deliberately tried to avoid. That's why he's over in the left-hand turn. Did this driver do anything to impede? We don't know whether there's no skid marks. We blew a horn to warn anybody, even though these people were there. But what was the intent of this person? It was obviously to avoid these activists. It looks like, from looking at the crosswalk, from where the driver begins the right-hand turn in that left-hand lane, over to where the woman was struck. We look somewhere in the neighborhood of a good 40, 50 feet, maybe more, I don't know.
She's standing right there. There's no bad weather. It's blue skies. It's a sunny day. She has a white head of hair, a black t-shirt, blue jeans, and she's nearly 6 feet tall, Regan. She's a tall woman, a former model. And so this argument that, I didn't see her.
He was just angry, and even when we finally called 2 minutes and said, time's up, the way he whipped around the corner, he went so fast. That's why when people say this was an accident, it's there's no way. He went so fast.
Was the driver under the influence of anything? Was the driver tested for alcohol and drugs at the scene?
We say when your behavior is so willful, when your behavior is so reckless and indifferent to the victim, that we can impose a penalty. And those penalties are substantial. And there could be some politics behind that. I'm sure the truckers' union, maybe something that has to do with the packing house, and it certainly has probably political friends that it contributes to. They would have had an influence and say, wait a minute. And they would try very hard to try to shift the blame to the activists. You are the cause of all of this. If you weren't there, this would never have happened.
Come on, say your piece.
Say my piece? Get the fuck out of my face. That's my piece. You guys are unsafe. You're gonna get your fucking self killed just like that other little debutante.
Right now, the purpose of vigils, like the true meaning of vigils, is really losing its focus right now with us because of these counter protesters. Like the animals were already had nothing, like they just had these 2 minutes where we could just try and give a few of them just a moment of compassion, and like the police aren't even letting us do that anymore.
I'd expected a lot of human rights groups to be really supporting, you would think, right? Like, who cares who was on that truck or what was on that truck? Aren't human rights activists upset?
Right.
Like a human got killed for standing up for what she believes in.
The truck was there for about 4 or 5 minutes. And all I saw was the protesters walk away from the truck. This was totally preventable. I feel sorry for the victims' families. My heart goes out to them. I sympathize with them, but it didn't have to happen.
So like, that's the kind of attitude. All the blame is taken away from the person that actually killed her. And it's putting on the activists, because if we would just shut up and go home, she wouldn't have died. It was either on purpose or
Intimidation.
more likely, you better get out of the way because I'm not stopping.
The police are not acting in an objective way, and they're not there to protect us.
Right.
They're there to protect powerful animal agriculture industry.
But it does not absolve him of due care, a duty to be careful, the foreseeability of it all. It doesn't absolve him from why are you making a right-hand turn from a left-hand lane, in violation of the code section.
He was accelerating, like he didn't just turn at a normal speed, even a normal speed for turning for a truck. He knew he was there, she was there. It looked like he was trying to hit her, and that was intentional. And the fact that he didn't stop when he dragged her, I fully believe that he intended to hit her.
And we're talking about a barren industrial landscape, right? Almost like a football field, but it's concrete with a chain link fence. You can't, and two of us standing there. He could see us, and the amount of time that he was there, like 5-6 minutes, there's nothing else to look at.
What was his state of mind? And we get to intent. So then it brings us into the areas of criminal gross negligence and manslaughter, where there is no intent to kill, but there is a killing. And then we take a look at the conduct of the driver, and was there reckless indifference, some willful misconduct on the part. We can kind of bring his background into it to show that there's this proclivity or this propensity toward this behavior, and then we can find gross negligence.
Does he have prior incidents? Does he have a clean driving record? Has he expressed animus towards animal rights activists? I'd want to talk to his friends and family. I'd certainly want to take a very close look at his social media, which is very revealing sometimes.
First vigil I went to was in Toronto, and one thing that struck me was not only was there hostility among some of the truck drivers, but there was even hostility among cars going by.
I was there.
You were there. There was a car that just kind of, do you remember this? Just kind of pushed through the people. The cop had to come over and he kind of pushed the cop.
Well, sadly, when that happened, I don't even remember when you said that because it happens so frequently.
I don't fucking bother you! You get the fuck out of my face, asshole!
Get back in your car!
Yeah, back in your car, sir!
Whoa! We are in the middle of this social norm that some animals we love and some animals we kill and eat. The ones who get upset with us, something about what we are saying strikes a chord in them. Something resonates.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
And And so when I see people get upset, when I see people make jokes, that's just because the truth has landed deeper in them than they care to admit.
Anyone that feels that strongly has a real guilt issue. Because if it means nothing to you, just keep passing by.
I think it's about seeing these animals experience, seeing it right in front of you, going, this is their life. This is what they're enduring, because we have a population of people who are asleep and don't realize that they've been programmed to think we love some animals and kill and eat others.
Animal vigils are a unique type of activism. We stand in front of the gates of slaughterhouses and we see the animals fearful and hoping that someone will help them. They're still persons. They're not disassembled yet. I think it's important to see, it's important to have a sense of accountability. You see, when you go there and you see them, it's unfiltered. You get to see, look them in the eyes. These are moments before they're going to be brutally murdered. And with other forms of activism, you don't necessarily see the victims firsthand. And there's something really powerful about seeing victims. I think that's the root of mobilizing social movements. Being the victim really mobilizes people.
It started with Anita. She was walking her dog and happened upon a transport truck at a stoplight and was able to look inside and saw these pigs and thought, somebody needs to do something about this. In 2015, she ran into a disgruntled truck driver who did not like the fact that she was trying to give the pigs water, and so he had her arrested and charged originally with criminal mischief, facing potentially 10 years in prison.
In our legal system, corporations have the status of persons, and animals who are our equals they deserve personhood. So basically, at the pig trial, we were fighting for compassion not being a crime, but also to change the property status of animals and to recognize pigs and other animals as persons.
So basically, from one woman's actions came a movement of over 1,000 groups in over 70 countries.
It's like you're on the front lines, and then you show people who aren't on the front lines what's really happening right before these animals are killed, which is hidden.
The police charged me with criminal mischief, interference with property. It was just so shocking for charging someone for an act of kindness. In this case, the driver who killed Regan, his charge is dangerous driving causing death. How do I feel about it? Like, I was charged with a criminal charge for giving water, and this trucker is charged under the Highway Traffic Act, a non-criminal charge. I feel that the justice system is corrupt.
When you go to a vigil, not only do you make the connection yourself, but you can share that. If you have some footage and photos, you can then share that with the world. And I find that's very effective, very effective.
Right. What do you think it was with Regan that she responded to that type of activism? I'm always interested why someone would come to a vigil where we don't really get to save the animal. We see them right before they die.
Like, I remember her talking about Anita's case as she was going to the trials. She would have thought that the vigils are the best way to communicate the problem, period.
Our last conversation was the day prior, where she was telling me about the bill and how upset she was. And she sounded very tired, and she said to me, "You realize with this bill being passed. Do you understand the work that lies ahead of me?
Laws are not bills. Bills are how laws are introduced. You introduce a bill, and if it passes through the various committees of the legislature, eventually being signed by, in this case, the Prime Minister, we now have a law. But we're only talking about a bill.
Bill 156 is an ag bill that was introduced by the Conservative government in Ontario, and it was basically written by the animal ag industry.
This is what they want passed into law. Now you have to understand that a lot of things in a bill are negotiable. They will put them in knowing that they'll have to give up certain things to really get the major points.
It's a law designed to cover up the truth, to stop us from documenting what's happening. That's what it is.
They pass ag-gag laws that say we can't be investigated, we can't be photographed, we can't be filmed, nobody knows what's going on. Aggressive legislation that allows them to avoid the legal and economic consequences for their behavior.
This is a law that purports to say, well, I guess there's some kind of zone around the truck that's private property, and that's absurd. As the truck moves along the streets and highways, it has private property like encircling it everywhere it goes, and anybody who gets near it, passing somebody on a highway, am I now trespassing onto their private property? That's ridiculous.
It looks like we're dealing with people's right to assemble, people's right to freedom of expression. All of these types of issues are going to come out.
And as I looked at the legal framework, I became much more interested in the underlying economic framework, because it's the cash that drives the laws. People don't have interest in passing laws unless they're going to make money from it. That's why laws get passed.
Now they say it's to protect the animals from humans, right? and to protect them from getting diseased by us. I mean, really all we do is take pictures of them, give them kind words and maybe some water. So of course it's the way that the law is worded is ridiculous. It's really designed just to hide the truth.
There's no evidence that anybody has ever caused stress to an animal by providing it water on a hot day, or introduced contamination into the food supply by giving water to an animal.
There's never been a case like it before. No precedent for it. That's a case of first impression. You will be making precedent. Case law. So we understand that there are two types of laws. Statutory law, laws that are passed, bills have been introduced and become statutes, passed through the legislature, and case law, which are precedents that are cases that interpret the law, and they're very, very important.
My new sign.
That's the first thing lawyers begin to look at is, first of all, we look to see how the cases interpret that particular law.
First of all, I want to start off by expressing on behalf of the Halton Regional Police our sincerest condolences to the family and friends of the woman who lost her life here today. We got a call at about 10:20 a.m. For reports of a pedestrian struck by a transport truck hauling pigs in the area of South Service Road and Harvester Road in Burlington.
I know the intersection where Regan was killed. And when I looked at the footage, I thought this was a big truck. You know, this was probably 50, 55 foot truck.
Typically, if it's the same as like another like dry van, they're usually around, I think it's 73 feet.
What struck me about the footage was that Regan was holding a sprayer. She was holding a water sprayer. And you can see where the sprayer got knocked aside, which is pretty close to the crosswalk. It's pretty close to the crosswalk, and there's this sort of sidewalk there, and there's this patch of grass, and there's a chain link fence. And her sprayer is way up there. And then there is this line, this whole line of body fluids, and it's the entire length of the truck. But what's interesting is that the rear end of the truck has cleared the crosswalk. It's come inside onto this service road. and her sprayer is way up by the street, and it would appear that he didn't. Where he hit her, where her sprayer was knocked away, and where he stopped was beyond the length of the truck.
This bill says that if you're driving a truck and you hit somebody, you're not responsible for killing that person unless you did it intentionally or with reckless or willful disregard for that person's safety. But there's a big gap there. What is that? Negligence.
To come up with the gross negligence argument, we'd want to maybe take a look at his background.
He claims he couldn't see her, there was another distraction, or she was in a blind spot. I didn't understand the or.
Driving big rigs, you can have a tire blow and you don't know. You got people flashing their lights at you and people help you communicate that way. You feel speed bumps, and it's a bit morose to say it like that, I think, but yeah, he should have felt that.
If his excuse is a blind spot or a distraction, then careless driving is not enough. There is no blind spot. You can see everyone on the curb from shoulders up all the way down the corner.
Yeah, you definitely feel speed bumps. It's called a critical event. So yeah, hard bumps, hard braking, things like that. It's always recording, but it'll take a chunk of 8 seconds before and 8 seconds after. It just wants to see before, during, and after the so-called critical event.
That truck driver, he saw Regan. He was staring at Regan the entire time. Like, he had like a clear view of her.
I remember this massive garbage truck driving by us, honking. Like, it was just absolutely chaotic.
There was a moment when one of the witnesses, her name was Ellie, she was at the truck giving water, and she stopped and she turned around, and her phone was recording, so she did basically a 360. And in that moment, if you take it frame by frame, you could see where all 7 witnesses were that day. There were 7 people there, including Regan. Regan was standing over at the crosswalk, waiting, and had the right to cross. Pedestrians tend to always have the right of way.
She cleared when we said cleared. The light turned green. She had the right of way. And she was probably coming back towards us to join us.
He suddenly burst forward because he'd been sitting there light after light after light.
Because of where the impact happened and where I was, I didn't witness it, but I certainly heard it.
The sound was so loud.
When he hit Regan, it was the loudest sound I've ever heard in my entire life. People, like everyone else, thought that he hit the fence.
In my head, it sounded like the truck had hit the fence.
When the truck whipped around the corner, I heard like this really sickening, like crunching sound, and I thought the truck hit the fence.
It sounded like he crunched something.
I heard.
What'd you hear?
I heard a crunch. I just heard it was like a sickening crunch.
And he struck her near the crosswalk if her sprayer is any indicator. And to keep going the length of his truck to clear that crosswalk and be past it before he finally stopped. And one of the witnesses said he never got out.
When he hit her, I immediately ran over there, and he didn't stop. It seemed like he dragged her for a long time.
And there was a huge trail of blood because she had been dragged, and the only reason he stopped was because the security guard was screaming at him.
2 possible things. One is this dude is super malicious. If you have somebody under your tires, you just keep going, that's pretty messed up, obviously. And 2 is he didn't know.
God forbid this was an intentional act, or in the future, there were intentional acts enabled by a law that a truck driver might see as a license to kill.
I came around the corner of the back of the truck to the driver's side, and the first thing I saw was just a trail of blood. It didn't seem like there was anything that we could do. It was pretty clear that she was gone.
Regardless of what you think about whether the activist should be there or not, there's never any excuse for something like this. This is, yeah, he should have seen her.
I feel very lost without her. As do her friends.
My daughter changed my life. I taught her in grade 7 and 8, and in later life, I became the pupil. She was the greatest teacher I ever had.
I don't know if it does any good, but I know it does. I know doing nothing does no good. Yeah. I knew nothing about the food I was eating or any of that. There was no internet, It was, if it wasn't for Peter Singer's book, Animal Liberation, that was my only insight as to what was going on. Once you open that door as to what's going on, it is just a world of shock. We've been sold a bill of goods our entire lives. Me, my parents' generation, it is shocking. Absolutely shocking, the lack of regard for the feelings of our fellow Earthlings. It is shocking.
There's the realization that if everyone saw this, people would not contribute to the animal exploitation and suffering.
When you do a job like this, and if you're willing to think a little bit deeper, you know that this is something that the general population doesn't really know about and would probably be interested in it.
This group feels there's an injustice and they're standing here to speak to it. We're standing beside them, as Regan would.
Because I've been doing this activism since 1977, when the seal hunt was really first exposed. Yeah. That's when I got involved.